So this is the RSV translation, but notice how in context it has a very different meaning from the meaning that's been granted it by folk singers. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Switching now to the JPS translation, what value then can the man of affairs get from what he earns? I have observed the business that God gave man to be concerned with. He brings everything to pass precisely at its time. In other words, everything comes to pass and returns in endless cycles. We add nothing by our efforts. It's not quite the comforting passage that it's often quoted to be. So the writer has tried everything in his search for something that's permanent and not evanescent. Physical pleasure, he says, is unsatisfying, it's transient. Wealth just brings anxiety. Wisdom is better than power, but even knowledge brings great pain. 1:17 and 18, and so I set my mind to appraise wisdom and to appraise madness and folly, and I learned that this too was pursuit of wind, for as wisdom grows, vexation grows. To increase learning is to increase heartache. Don't believe him. Even if we concede that wisdom is superior to ignorance, we must still face the fact that ultimately death obliterates everything. Death is the great equalizer. Qohelet 2:13-17. I found that wisdom is superior to folly, as light is superior to darkness. A wise man has his eyes in his head, whereas a fool walks in darkness. But I also realized that the same fate awaits them both. So I reflected, the fate of the fool is also destined for me. To what advantage, then, have I been wise? And I came to the conclusion that that too was futile, because the wise man, just like the fool, is not remembered forever, for as the succeeding days roll by, both are forgotten. Alas, the wise man dies just like the fool, and so I loathed life, for I was distressed by all that goes on under the sun, because everything is futile and pursuit of wind. So even more explicitly than Job, Ecclesiastes attacks the principle of divine providence or distributive justice. There's no principle of reward or punishment. The wicked prosper while the innocent suffer. And even the principle of delayed punishment, which is so important to the Deuteronomistic historian, is attacked as unjust in Qohelet 8, verses 10b-14. And here's another frustration, the fact that the sentence imposed for evil deeds is not executed swiftly, which is why men are emboldened to do evil. The fact that a sinner may do evil 100 times and his punishment still be delayed. Sometimes an upright man is requited according to the conduct of the scoundrel, and sometimes the scoundrel is requited according to the conduct of the upright. I say all that is frustration.